Forward to when Matt sets Nobu on fire. Now Kingpin and Madame Gao are the only ones left. About this point, Foggy learns that Matt is Daredevil, and they fight about it for a couple of episodes, and then they're friends again. Daredevil burns down a heroin factory run by Madame Gao. The heroin packets are emblazoned with the symbol of the hand, meaning that Madame Gao also works for the secret ninja clan. Daredevil asks this guy to help him make an armored suit, and he beats up the Kingpin and sends him to jail. At the end of season 1, the law firm is doing well, and everyone is friends. Also, Karen killed a guy. We'll get back to Daredevil, but next let's talk about Jessica Jones. She has super strength and is an alcoholic private eye with PTSD after being abused by a living piece of shit named Kilgrave. Kilgrave's superpower is that everyone has to obey his spoken commands. There's a subplot about a cop getting superpowers from military pills, yada yada yada, decapitated neighbor, support group. Look, this is the best Marvel Netflix show, but not fully relevant to the Defenders, so we're gonna skip over a lot. Jessica does private eye work for Jerry Hogarth, who's played by Trinity from The Matrix. She lives down the hall from a nice heroin addict named Malcolm, and her best friend is radio host Trish Walker. She spies on Luke Cage in her spare time, and he's also got superpowers. Luke and Jessica bang. Things go well until Jessica confesses that Kilgrave made her kill Luke's wife, Reva Connors. They break up, very sad. Jessica finds out that her heroin addict neighbor Malcolm has actually been under Kilgrave's control. What? And he's secretly been providing the villain with pictures of Jessica. Jessica retaliates by helping Malcolm to get off drugs and rebuild his life. She's such a good person. Luke Cage's bar explodes and he and Jessica hang again. It's all good till she realizes that Kilgrave is controlling him too. What? Jessica subdues him with a shotgun blast to the face, and then Claire Temple saves his life. Told you she'd be back. At the end of the show, Jessica and Trish outsmart Kilgrave. She snaps his neck and reopens her detective agency. Her PTSD is better, but she still drinks too much and has a basket bereft of f***s, so don't ask her to give you any. Now on to Daredevil Season 2. So many ninjas. Different mobs and cartels try to take the Kingpin's place, but they get killed by this guy, Frank Castle, who the police call the Punisher. The Punisher's family was killed by gang members, so unlike Daredevil, he shoots criminals like he's trying to unlock a Call of Duty achievement. So blah blah blah, awesome stairway fight, Punisher shoots Daredevil in the head, and for a while he loses his powers off and on, you know, like superheroes do sometimes. Daredevil apprehends the Punisher. Matt kisses Karen in the rain. Things seem to be going okay, but then Elektra shows up. She's a super rich assassin that Matt dated in college until she murdered a man and they broke up. God, TV hasn't seen breakups this intense since Zack and Kelly. Turns out Elektra has bloodlust, which means she's addicted to killing people. Man, and I was worried about Artemis being addicted to catnip. Matt and Elektra fight the Hand and find a giant, endless hole that is never explained. In the Defenders, the Hand will probably use the hole to summon a demon, or a Balrog, or maybe Sigourney Weaver. Then Styx shows up and reveals that Elektra has been working for him all along. What? All this ninja stuff pisses off Foggy because it's taking Matt away from work, and so he leaves the firm to join Jerry Hogarth's firm. Karen becomes a newspaper reporter and tries to help Frank Castle. Here's the Punisher's arc. Goes to jail, fights in a hallway, blah blah, family's murder was a cover-up, tracks down the man responsible, blah blah blah, penny and dime, paints a skull on his chest, and has a lot of morality discussions with Daredevil. Daredevil goes to a hand facility called the Farm, where they drain human blood into a giant sarcophagus. Nobu is there, even though he burned to death in season 1. Daredevil says, "But you're dead." And Nobu says,
"There is no such thing."
Then some previously dead ninjas attack a hospital, meaning the Hand are forming an army of the undead. There's a cover-up, Claire quits, and Madame Gao shows up to paint a picture. Nobu reveals that Elektra was the evil weapon Black Sky all along. What? And that's why she loves to go a-murdering. She chooses Matt over her bloodlust, and Pinky promises not to kill anymore. There's a big fight at the end. Elektra, Daredevil, and Stick fight ninjas. Punisher helps and gives them a curt nod, and Elektra sacrifices herself. Stick beheads Nobu. Matt tells Karen he's Daredevil. The Hand abscond with Elektra's body to Stefano her back to life. Now on to Luke Cage.
I'm Luke Cage.
Luke is in Harlem working 2 jobs under the table. He sweeps floors at a local barbershop and bartends at a gangster's club, where we get a lot of kick-ass musical performances that are the cornerstone of some of these episodes. You should really watch these in full if you have time. The gangster, Cottonmouth, is buying some high-end weaponry made by Justin Hammer from Iron Man 2. After the deal goes bad, Officer Misty Knight investigates. Misty Knight doesn't have any superpowers, but she is very good at staring at walls and concentrating. In the first episode, she hooks up with Luke and then helps him throughout the series. Cottonmouth guns down a barbershop, and Luke Cage retaliates by knocking down every door he sees. Unless it's a church. Claire comes back and decides that she's now going to be a nurse for super people. We get a flashback to Cage's origin story. He was framed and sent to jail where he met Reva Connors, remember her? An experiment gives him superpowers, he breaks out of prison, and has been on the run ever since. He finds out later that Reva was only pretending to love him, and I could explain all the reasons why, but it would take way too long. All you need to know is that when Luke sees Jessica again in the Defenders, there won't be any hard feelings. Cottonmouth is killed, his cousin Mariah frames Luke Cage, and a new villain named Diamondback shoots Luke with an alien bullet that almost kills him. He recovers, meets Method Man, and we get a freestyle, which is the coolest scene in any Marvel Netflix show.
Now we got a hero for hire and he a black one.
Later, Diamondback fights Luke Cage while wearing a super-powered suit.
Where's my super suit?
But Luke still kicks his ass. At the end, Mariah's running Harlem, Luke goes to jail, and Misty Knight is trying to clear his name. Oh, and Luke hooks up with Claire despite having terrible game.
I hear that Cuban coffee is particularly robust.
And now Iron Fist. Oh boy, you're going to be glad you skipped this one. This is Danny Rand. He was a rich kid traveling with his parents and their plane crashed in the Himalayas. He was found by monks who took him to a hidden city called Kunlun, which is kind of like Asian Brigadoon because it's magical and only appears once every 10 years. Danny learns martial arts and gains the power to turn his fist bright yellow and hit things really hard.
Sweet Christmas.
He's the latest in a long line of warriors called the Iron Fist who exist to protect Kunlun and fight the Hand. When the series starts, he shows up at his father's company, Rand Enterprises, where nobody knows who he is because he's been through puberty. The company is being controlled by Harold Meacham, Danny's father's best friend, and Faramir from Lord of the Rings. The public thinks that Harold is dead, but he's actually controlling the company through his kids, Ward and Joy. Danny meets Colleen Wink, who runs a local dojo and keeps kids off the streets. She also makes money in illegal cage fights that are not against Brock Lesnar, but totally should be against Brock Lesnar. Danny meets Claire, who trains at the dojo. Everybody eats Chinese food together. There's a long back and forth of people not believing Danny is who he says he is, but Trinity shows up and uses an arts and craft project to prove his identity. Now Danny is in charge of a billion-dollar company despite only having a 5th grade education. White privilege! Fight in an elevator! Danny finds out that Harold is alive, and he's happy to have a father figure back in his life. Harold tells Danny that he was resurrected by the Hand and that Madame Gao is secretly controlling Rand Enterprises and using the business to sell high-end synthetic heroin. Harold is killed by his son, but he comes back from the dead again and starts murdering people, including his lovely intern Kyle.
In all the time I've worked for you, I don't think I've ever seen you eat any dairy or sugar.
Die.
It turns out that after the Hand brings people back to life, they can only die if you cut off their head, and then they get more insane with every resurrection. Can't wait to see what this means for Elektra. There's a low-budget trip to China, fight with a drunken boxer, Colleen is poisoned, and her mentor Bakudo shows Danny that he can use the Iron Fist to heal her. Then it turns out that Bakudo is leader of a small faction of the Hand that doesn't get along with Gao's faction, and that Colleen has been working with the Hand the entire time.
What?
Colleen and Danny make up and share a tender sex scene. Then they fight Bakudo right underneath where the Avengers movie ended and where Jessica Jones was looking for Kilgrave.
Get over there!
Look, we're almost done. Harold goes to the office and starts killing people. Gao tells Danny that Harold actually killed his parents, and there's a big superhero rage who killed my parents moment. Cut to, fight on a roof, Harold dies, Gao sips some tea, Danny tries to take his new girlfriend to Asian Brigadoon, but it's gone. Okay, the main things to remember: the Hand, evil ninjas. Stick, guy leading fight against the Hand. Claire, helps people and is made out with 50% of the superheroes in this show. Iron Fist, guy with the yellow hand who's never worked hard for anything in his entire life. Jessica Jones, super strength, alcoholic, and best defender. Luke Cage, dead wife that doesn't matter, hero of Harlem, currently in jail. Daredevil, has quit being Daredevil, crazy ex-girlfriend. Cool.